Hey there, it's Patmos and nice of you to join me for this Sapiens beginner's tip video. I'll be taking you through 12 tips I think are very useful for you as a beginner to get started in this game. Tip number 1 will be picking the right starting tribe. Now, as you can see, we have the overview of the world here, and we can see there's a lot of ice on the North Pole. If we move the world around, we can see that this is somewhat temperate. Then we get to darker trees, which is probably around the equator. We get another temperate zone, and then we can get into the ice. And you will see that if we zoom in on the ice, and we will actually start seeing some tribes on the map, you can see that there are different colors. These are all kind of dark orange. Some might even be red. You also see that there's a lot of places where there aren't even any tribes, meaning that these are hard places to start. You have few materials. You can see it also on the amount of stars. 4 out of 5 stars means this is pretty difficult. So it's icy tundra, there are pine trees, it's cold summer, very cold winter. So these will be hard starting places. So if you want to get going with the game, and of course you just want to have the experience of the game, you want to start and try out what it does, go for a more easy area. And around the tropics is usually one of the easier places. If we just zoom in on an area here, we will soon see that there's a lot of green tribes that you can start with. There's also harder tribes, like right here in the middle of this desert-like terrain. You can see here this is very hard. It's really dry, no trees. Well, that will be a tough start. And here we can see a dark green one, which is supposed to be very easy. See, this is very easy. There's everything you need is around. We have trees, we have food around, we should have some mining grounds around. So yeah, this could be actually a very good starting point. Now, how difficult you want to make is up to you, but especially if you want to get into the game, it can be nice to just make a very easy or an easy start. Get the right amount of sapiens. Basically, your sapiens start without any knowledge. They have to learn everything. And the fewer people you have, if you start with only 4 people, you have only 4 people to start learning stuff. If you start with a tribe of like 11 or maybe 8 or 6, you can already do some more jobs at the same time and get your tribe going. So I would suggest somewhere like between 6 to 12 sapiens or maybe 8 to 12 sapiens for a starting tribe in one of the areas where it's really easy so that you can get your tribe going. That brings us to tip number 2, picking the right area. Now that we've started, let's pause the game and let's zoom out a bit so we can see where we are actually at. Well, we have some mountains here, and if we click the terrain, we can read this is tin ore. We have some limestone here. This could well be sand or clay. So there's some nice resources here. There's just sand and rocks. So this is a nice area. We have some trees here which produce us some food, like I think these are pine trees, but here we have coconut trees, which are nice. There's also banana trees, so we have food around. So basically what we want to be looking for is a lot of different types of trees, some food, which we all have here. We have some mining ground up here. We see that there's rocks around. So this is a good starting point. This, however, has a lot of elevation. This is already a harder place to get started. So what I would suggest when you get started is just look around a bit. Try to find a nice piece of flat land. We can see some elevations here, but it's not too bad. And this seems to be like a nice spot, but there's a lot of stone. So maybe we should pick somewhere around this area as the real starting point. Now, it's no problem for these people, since you only start with people. You have nothing else to get started here. Just select your first piece of grass. Make sure that you select a decent size. In this case, 31 hexes. And we'll tell them to start clearing this. That will make all sapiens move from that spot to right here. And then this will be our starting point. I highly suggest you pick a little bit of flat land. Doesn't have to be too big, but at least enough to get some storages, some houses up and such. Later on we can work with the terrain. You can also learn how to dig or fill holes and stuff, but for now that's not really the case. So getting started on a flat piece of land with lots of stuff around is very good. Tip number 3, research. Since your people basically don't know anything, we can get to the overview and see our tech tree. All we know is some general labor, basic buildings, so we can investigate and we have some diplomacy, but other than that we know nothing. Now, because we have a decent sized tribe, we can start to do some research. And there's some good benefits to it. because everything needs to be learned. So now we're going to tell them to learn how to rub sticks together, and that will generate fire. Once the hay starts to dry, we can do some research and try to build something with it. Here we find clay, but we miss knowledge to actually learn something with that. Here we have our plain rock, and we can actually start to hit that and craft something. Now, those research things will take quite a while. We can see this guy is now going to start to learn to rub this together and get some knowledge. You can speed that up by having multiple people do the same thing. So when we have 3 people rubbing all these sticks together, that might go a lot faster. We can do the same with the stones. That will make it so that people will be, we get the knowledge earlier on. But you can also see we have a lot of people just sitting around because we still have a lot of people that can actually just do jobs. So make sure when you do some research, you assign an appropriate number of people to do an actual research. Look at this, how fast this is going. We are just on speed 1. But because we have 3 people doing it, it goes a lot quicker. Same here with the stones. So we can get the research done fast while we have other people gathering stuff. And of course, at some point, we will be needing a lot of hay and sticks to build like huts and stuff. So gathering all that material right now while the research is being done is basically a form of planning ahead. And when doing so, we will be ready to start building some structures as soon as we've gotten the first knowledge in. Tip number 4. Crafting. Now that we have some knowledge in, we can actually create some crafting areas where we can make basic tools and stuff that we are going to need in our little new settlement here. Now I suggest you build quite large zones with these, because for every... Oh, I misplaced this one. For every single thing that you want to create, you need your own crafting area. So right now they will be building these. They will gather stones and start building these. I will pick this one and show you. You can craft something. Right now we can craft 8 different types of things. And we can only do one of these in one of these crafting stations. So right now they're building more. So I'm going to take 8 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll start on this side. There's different options we have right here. This one will make soft, small rocks. And we can craft a certain amount. We can tell them, for instance, to craft 10. What I like to do is put this on maintain. That will make sure that we always have a stockpile of 10 small soft rocks. Maintain. Another thing we can do is actually name this. So what I like to do is name this soft small rocks. Every time we now hover over it, in the bottom left corner we can immediately see what they make. Not all the icons do make sense all the time, so doing it this way and naming stuff, make sure that you can always find what you are creating. These will be hard small rocks. We put it on maintain, then we click here and we tell this to be hard small rocks. That way you can always keep track of whatever you are doing by just hovering it and see if you already have a certain thing that you are creating. Now set up everything to your appropriate number. So how many do you want out of this? They need a lot of these basic materials to actually make all the other tools with. So getting some of these bigger pieces in good numbers is nice. Also, like right now, we have a very small tribe, so we don't need 10 hand axes, but we will be using them later. So make sure that you set everything up in sufficient numbers. Your tribe will start to grow at some point, either via new babies, but also migrants can come in and you can invite those in. And then soon enough, you'll be having the need for some of the higher numbers, especially if you all of a sudden need like a lot of bamboo. You will need quite a few hand axes to cut all of the bamboo that you're going to need for sticks. So make sure that by then you have enough of all of these materials. These 2 will now be unused because we don't have a use for them. Or we can assign another one to a certain piece that we want. Later on, when we get like planks, we do want a lot of planks to build certain buildings. You can assign multiple crafting stations to make those planks so more people can do that. Right now it is all in the open air. Later on it can be wise to put walls and a roof over it so that it's indoors, because right now it's dry, but when it starts to rain, our villagers don't really like to be out in the rain, and having a roof over stuff is very good. Tip number 5. Of course, our sapiens at some point will be going to need some food, so we have to provide them with food. But before we go into that, let's take a look at our little storage here. We can store all different types of items, but there's only one type of item that can go in a single storage unit. And that's not all. If we take a look at the hay, it says there's 60 hay in there. It is rotting right now, and in a few days it will rot outside. We can also see some food bushes here. that we can gather gooseberries from. Let's do that. The thing with food is food spoils very, very quickly once you put it in a storage. I'm going to prioritize these so that we can soon see that. So what is wise to do is take a look around, see if there are different food sources around. We have some gooseberries. We also have some bananas here. But moderate yourself in how much food you are actually picking from trees and bushes. And just make sure that you have the bare minimum needed to keep your village fed and alive. It's even the case that villagers that are hungry will just go out. Ooh, we discovered a new research. Villagers that are hungry will go out to find some food around, eat it, and then go back to work. As long as the gooseberries are right here in the bush, they will not spoil. So leave stuff in the bushes and just get it later. Like right now we have the gooseberries here. It will rot in a few days outside. Bananas will rot in a few hours outside. So we have to make sure that we get as much food for a longer period of time as we can. So I usually don't even harvest both of these bushes. I just do one so that we have a little bit of food in store. If somebody gets hungry, they can eat that straight away. All the rest I'll just leave in the trees, and as soon as I am out of food, I will grab a little bit of new ones. In these empty bushes, we'll now start to grow some new food, which is really nice, because then we can harvest them again and again and again. But just be very conservative with getting all the foods out, because it will now spoil really fast, and we don't really want that, because spoiled food is just a waste. Now, while our villagers are busy, it is time for tip number 6. And tip number 6 is about our storage. Because right now, because this is outside, it rots in a few days. These will rot in a few days. Some of these, of course, will not rot. Rocks will not rot outside. But it is very beneficial for a lot of our products that we will have to have a roof overhead. So what I would like to do is get going straight away with getting a roof over this nice building. How do we do that? Well, one of the easiest ways is just to make sure that we get some doors in. If you hold shift and then your right mouse button, you can rotate things around. We'll just make sure that we can get a complete indoor storage area so that none of this will ever spoil. Of course, we have to get a roof overhead. We can do that pretty easily with this big roof that we can place. So let's place it right here. If we do it correctly, it should actually attach to this building. So otherwise, just rotate it, make sure that it goes well. See, there it goes for a little bit. It attaches properly. There we are. Once this is done, and it doesn't even have to be done completely. Once one of the roofs is done, it will count as all the stuff underneath it is indoors, even if it's just one slab of roof. So make sure you get the roofs done pretty quickly to have everything under the roof, and it will stay good for longer. Now, of course, I can already hear you say, don't we need to build like houses for our villagers? Well, that's one of the next tips that we're going to go to straight away. Tip number 7 is about housing. Now, of course, we do need housing for our sapiens because that will make them more happy. These are just resting somewhere, but outdoors in the rain, in the wind, they don't really like it. So basically what our sapiens need is 2 types of things. They need a bed to make them more happy, and they need a roof over their head. Now, if we don't provide them with beds, they will get unhappy at some point, which is unfortunate. So what I would like to do is already put down a couple of beds to make them happy. Now, we started with a tribe with 11 sapiens, so we're going to build one big house with a lot of beds. But right now, I'm not going to build the house yet. I am just going to make all the beds in here, and then we will build the house around it soon. Why do we do that? Well, they do like to sleep in a bed. That will already make them more happy than when they have to sleep outside or on the ground. But the happiness effect is temporary, and if you don't provide them with a roof over their head, they will not go away fairly quickly. It will take some time before they get so mad at you that they will actually start to leave. So before that happens, build a roof over your storage first to keep all your food good for longer and preserve everything that you have collected and put all that labor in. The house will come afterwards. Now that we have this done, we can already start to build the house. And for that, I also have a little tip for you. What can you do with the housing? Well, if you hold the Alt button down and you place it, you do place the building, but you basically tell them not to build it yet, which is a very handy tool. So you can get going with housing, but they won't build it yet. So let's hit the Alt key and then build it. We can now see that they won't start to build it. We have to actually click the build button on it. And as long as we don't do that, nothing will happen here. So they will get an indoor place soon enough. But only when the storage is done. Until then, we are not going to build this. Sometimes it can be beneficial to build these walls first, by the way. And I did not hit the Alt button while I placed these. So now they are actually going to build these. So let's remove them again and do the Alt button again. And I kind of want to rotate this one slightly. It can be very beneficial to build the house first with Alt so that they won't build it. And then build the beds inside so that everything aligns properly. Because as you could see right now, it wasn't really aligned properly. But that's okay, that's for later. Now we can also see that they are very busy with building this place. They are actually already building a roof. They don't have light now though, so they won't be building anything at the moment. But as soon as we provide them with some lights, they will continue. And they can do all sorts of buildings. I don't think they'll build the lights right now, but we'll see. So tomorrow they will continue. And then we can get a roof over their head as well. We do have enough beds for everybody now, I think. So they can, most of them can sleep in a bed, which is good. But for now, this should be the way to go. Build the storage first, then get your housing done. They won't leave because they have to sleep on the ground for 1 or 2 nights. So don't get too concerned about that. You do want to keep all your goods very well. Time for tip number 8. Occasionally around your settlement you will find flowers like the echinacea, all other types of flowers and herbs that we don't have a use for yet. And you might think, well, what are they doing there? Why are they there? Let's get rid of them. They might even be growing very close into your settlement. Don't remove any of the flowers or herbs that you encounter. Wait until you get the planting skill. We are right now busy trying to figure it out. See, this one is trying to plant. As soon as we get the planting done, we can make little gardens with all those little herbs that we collect everywhere. And we can basically make an infinite source with those if you plant them as herbs. So for instance, here we have the garlic, which is nice. We can use it for food. Out here we have a sunflower, I think. If I can actually click it, see, this is a sunflower. There's all these plants and herbs, and some of them have medicinal uses. If we remove them right now, and in the end they will spoil, we are losing them. And you don't want to lose those herbs because they are quite rare. So make sure that you get the planting first. Until then, leave them be. As soon as you can plant stuff, make your own little gardens of flowers and stuff. So that you will never basically run out, because every time they harvest them, you get the seeds for it. And you can tell them to replant them or keep them growing. That way you can take care of those plants. You will always have them for the rest of the game. And you can use those later on for medicine. As soon as you discover planting, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important technologies that you have to get. It takes quite a while to get, but once you have it, you get so many options. As soon as you get that discovered, and we have it right now, make sure that you start planting food, food, and food. Why is that? Well, a lot of these food things make for a very long growth time. For instance, if we want to get banana trees, it takes quite a while for those banana trees to actually mature and provide you with some food. So you have to get starting early with that. And now that we haven't covered it, we can see we can plant gooseberry bushes, sunflowers. Basically everything that we have discovered we can plant. We do need, in this case, the gooseberry or a sunflower seed or an echinacea flower. So you do need bananas, for instance, to start planting banana trees. We also have to take into account that we're building quite a large village. We don't want it to be too far out, but we also don't want it to take too much space. So we're just, for this case, are going to start right here. I've set it to random trees. And we're just going to plant like 9 trees or something. That should get us a good head start. So right now we've placed 9 trees. We should have some bananas in store, so they will be using those to get going there. If you are in doubt if you have enough, just go find some more banana trees. Here they are. Find one that still has bananas and start harvesting those. And then make sure basically that you create one large food area, or you can do multiple around your entire village. For now, we're just going to start with a relatively small area right here where we're growing all of our food. For now, we will still have to rely on stuff that we can gather, but at some point these will all start to mature villagers that are hungry can just walk there, grab some food. The food will remain very good for very long when they're still hanging on the trees or in the bushes. And of course, since we are also making the cover over our storage, it will also remain pretty good in the storage for a long time as well. So this will ensure the food survival of our small little group here. Now there's all these different types of foods that you can get from bananas, gooseberries, other berries. We can get coconuts. So there's a lot of different types of food we should be able to get. As soon as you find them, harvest them, make sure that you put them into a little farm field, which I'm going to call it. I'm just going to call it a farm field now. And just gather around, see if you can find any food sources. Now, as we can see, there's not a lot real close, but there might just be like some pumpkins or whatever at some point. Here we do have more gooseberry bushes if we need them. It is quite a long walk, but they can do that. It's not that bad. I'm just going to scout around to see if we can find some other sources here. Here we do have some wheat. Here we also have some beetroots, which we can gather. And we can just make sure that we plant those in our little settlement so that we grow all the food close by. That immediately brings me to tip number 10. Tip number 10 is basically the same about the food, but then with all of the trees that we have. Why? Well, as you can see right now, we have plenty of trees around, but once our village starts to expand, we're going to remove more and more because we don't need them anymore. We need to build houses and stuff in that area. And as you can already see for this, just one roof required a lot of sticks. I'll show you if we go to the roofing. This one roof required 9 sticks and 9 hay. And at this pace, we're going to run out of stuff fairly quickly. Later on, when we will be starting to build wood buildings and stuff, we're going to need a lot of logs. And we can already see that the big trees that will give us logs are not so much close around. There's not so many of those. So planting a big forest is very helpful later on in making sure that you get all that you need. If we plant a big forest of bamboo, we can get a lot of sticks out of those. If we have plenty of seeds, you can even chop them down for sticks and immediately tell them to replant it. And that will make sure that we will have a lasting amount of sticks all the time. And we're going to do the same. Oh, we can actually do some coconut trees right here for food. So let's go over here to our little food trees and plant some coconut trees here so that we get even more food out of that. And we could chop those for wood, of course, but that's a bit of a waste. We have the pine trees for that. So let's also plant a pine tree forest. Now you can already see these trees are way bigger, so they need some more space. And you can basically start off with like 9 or whatever, but you can also just grow it over time. Make sure that you get a big forest going. And every time one is done, we can also do that with existing ones. We can either tell them to chop or to chop and replant. And especially with these forests, if the trees start to mature, you just hit chop and replant. They take them down, you get the logs out of it, they immediately replant them. And that way we have an infinite amount of wood stored pretty close to the village. Tip 11 has to go with village planning. As you can see right now, we've got quite the area around us where we can still build structures and stuff. But you can also see that some structures are pretty decent in size. And even this house, it can house a lot of people, which is great. But it is actually very crowded right now. One of the things in this game is sicknesses and viruses and the flu and stuff. So in the end, you don't want to build these massive houses with a lot of people in them because sickness will spread easily. You will want to build houses where you have smaller groups of people in so that they don't all get sick at the same time. So we are going to need quite the space. And for those that are new to the game, if you play this game, it is not that hard over time to reach settlements of 150, 200 or even 300 sapiens. So you will need to get a lot of space around. So in planning everything around your village, make sure that you always leave some space to grow. Like I've put this fruit area a little bit outside of town, not too far, but we can grow all the way around it so that from all sides people can come in and get some food if it's growing here. Same with these. I've not put these right next to it because that will generate one big area where we can't build anything. I've left an opening here. Then here is our forest now, and we can still build all the way around it. It's also smart to keep planning to move up a little bit so that we can get to mine in the mountains. So by making sure that you plan ahead a little, You can make sure that you get some durable growth for your town up until 2, 3, 4, maybe even 500 sapiens. The last and final tip for this tip video, tip number 12, will be a little bit more technical. It has to do with what your sapiens can do. If we take a look at our tribe and we take a look at the roles, we can see that we started out with these 4 roles unlocked, but as we do find more technologies, we will see that there will be more and more jobs that we will be able to do. We can also see how many sapiens are assigned to a specific role. So all 14 that we have can do general labor. There's only 2 that can do fire lighting. So as soon as a torch goes out, there's only 2 villagers that can actually light the fire. We have only 2 that can do all the planting that we have assigned. So you will be making sure that you have enough villagers doing certain jobs. Right now we're not doing any digging. So yes, we have 2 that can do that, which is nice, but I'm not going to add people to the digging crew. But I want more villagers to be able to do some planting. Now we can already see this is an elderly guy. I don't really want him. I want some younger people. We also have to take into account that not every villager can do every job. Basically they can, but like this is a child, he's already yellow. Child can't do this task. So we can assign him for the future already, but we can see here it's yellowed out. So he won't be able to do this yet. There's also villagers that can't do it, for instance, because they are pregnant or they are carrying a baby. And some of the harder jobs they can't do at that point. So make sure that if you have a few important jobs to be done, like maybe the thatch building, that you have multiple people doing that. You can also see that they all start to learn a certain skill. So Nalako is learning the skill a little bit. As long as he doesn't really have the skill, he will be quite slow at their job. We can also see we have 2 that are skilled. They will do fast building. So they require some time to learn a certain task and then they can do it at a nice speed. So assigning these early on, making sure that they will be the ones that do all the building. They will get that skill level very quickly. And you can assign roles and people to different jobs. So we're going to do a lot of tree felling later on. So I want somebody to start learning that. We can also see that nobody is learning this at this point. But we do have 3 skilled ones. So that's nice. And this one will now start to learn that skill as soon as he starts to chop trees. Also, take a look at this every now and then when you have elder villagers and they start to die of old age. Because it could be that right now we have 5 people in the rock napping business, but if they're all elderlies, at some point they will pass away and you will end up without any people doing that certain job. So taking a look at your roles, making sure that everybody can do the right stuff can be very handy. You can also sometimes take a look at the investigative role and see if people actually get a bonus. We can see these little pluses here, meaning that these are the really smart ones. So, for instance, we could tell some of these, like this elderly guy, to no longer do this job. It will free him up for another job, so we can assign him to another job, and he will not be wasting his time on this. You can also have slow learners. They will actually learn very slow. So kick those out. Make sure that they will not be assigned to any of the jobs there, because they will do it really slow. So every time, just take a look, see if the right people are doing a certain job. If not, fix it, get them out of there. And if they have the extra skill, make sure that they are assigned to that job. That can be very helpful. We can see that this one is very good at, yeah, he has a plus on building, but he is already doing a lot of other jobs. So we could see, we could tell him to no longer be the tree feller, and then we want him to do some investigation because he has a plus on it, or do diplomacy, or do another task. So it can be really helpful to play around with these and make sure that everybody does the role that suits him, and also that all the jobs will be done. Well, that's it for this little tip video. I hope this really helps you out if you're starting new in this game, and that this will give you a little head start into understanding the game, and that you can build a nice, lovely Sapiens civilization. Have a great time with the game. Thank you very much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel. Leave all your comments in the comment section. I will respond to it. And then, of course, I hope to see you in another video. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.